Hello and welcome to the RMVideoChannel. Today we are going to look at setting up Euroscope in the UK and doing this through Vatsim UK. So the first thing to do is, when you log on to Vatsim, is to go to Downloads and then find the controller clients and plugins. You can then download Euroscope from here. I have already done that, so I won't do it again. The next thing to do, having installed Euroscope, the next thing to do is to go to the sector file and controller pack downloads and to download the UK controller pack, which is here. And then, having installed that, you then go to the UK sector file and install that. I will show you where they are installed in a moment. If you go back to the controller clients and plugins download page, you can then download the UK controller plugin, which has very useful add-ons. This and other plugins can be installed in the plugin folder in the Euroscope folder or in the UK controller pack plugin folder. So when you download the Euroscope package, you install it in your PC Documents folder, and so it will appear here. And you then have all of these folders except the UK controller pack and some other ones in here which I have added on. But when you install the controller pack, you install it in the Euroscope folder. So this is the current one, UK controller pack 2021-03. So you install that, and it will also put in another little folder called UKCP, which you can ignore. If you then go into the UK controller pack folder, you will find a folder called UK, and this gives you all of the main airports and a data folder. There are a few on this list that I've added in separately. So if we go into the data folder, you'll then find an alias folder, which I'm not going to deal with today, an Atis folder, also I won't deal with that, plugin sector. Now when you download the sector file, it should automatically be included in the controller pack now, but if it isn't, or if there is a new sector file, which there is every 28 days, then you then go into the sector folder, which is within Euroscope UK controller pack UK data, and that brings you up some data files for the sector, and this one, the .sct file, is the important one. So that is the sector file that you're going to work in. Next, you will need the audio for Vatsim software, and this can be obtained from the website audio.vatsim.net. Click on Update My Software. Then select your client, which in this case would be Euroscope, and click on that and follow the download instructions. We then return to the desktop to find the Euroscope logo, which is that one, and we will then open that. So what we're going to do today is we will work at Bristol, and so we're in the Bristol folder, and there is a Bristol smr.prf. So we open that. And the screen should come up blank. And it is now downloading various files. We can move this timer out of the way. And we wait for this to finish. So that is now finished. So what we now need to do is to find Bristol. So the next thing to do is to go to OpenSCT, and we open the sector file. So we now load the sector file in Data, and we load this file. And you will see a mass of lines over here and colours. So we now want to find Bristol. So we go down to the chat line, the message bar, and we type in .center in American, which is TER, as opposed to British, which is TRE, EGGD, which is Bristol. Press enter, and all of the colours center on the screen, and we then just mouse wheel in, and Bristol will be in the middle of the screen. So we then go back to OpenSCT at the top of the screen, and we click on Bristol smr.asr. If the Bristol SMR file does not appear here, you click on Open, and then wherever this opens, you then find the Data folder and the ASR folder. And in here again are all the airports. So you click on Bristol, and in there will be the Bristol SMR. Euroscope will then remember that the next time you go in. So you open the Bristol SMR, and abracadabra, there is Bristol Airport. So we can now maneuver it around so that we get everything where we want it. We don't need the timer, so put that down there. The arrival list can go over to the right for the moment. We have a list over here, which is in fact the controllers list, which will appear once we connect. We then have a planes list, which is the aircraft that are departing or arriving Bristol, and we have a departure list. So we can make the airport bigger. Something like that. Again, move the timer out of the way. And so that we don't lose this, we can make it into a saved PRF file, preference file, by going to Other Set, and we save profile as, and we go back to Bristol in the UK folder of the UK controller pack, and I already had created one, but it was effectively wiped by the last sector change, so I'll resave it. And that means that the next time you come in and try and open Bristol, it will come up on the screen just like this, unless you have altered the positions of these lists on another airport. So what do we have running across the screen again? We have our controller list, our planes list, our departure list, our METARs list, which is our Atis, our arrivals list, and a countdown timer, which we don't need if we're on ground, unless things are very, very busy when we need to just time when we can let other aircraft go. We have our runway, we have taxiways with the holding point markings, and we have taxiways in yellow, and we have stand numbers in red. They will not normally be in red, but I have changed the sector file color code so that they are red, because I find that easier to look at. So the next thing to do is to make sure the system is talking about Bristol when it populates these lists. So we go to this symbol here, or we can go to Other Settings and go to Active Airports Runways. It does the same thing. And that brings up a dialog for the relevant airports. So we are going to run Bristol this afternoon. So we need to find EGGD, which is here, and you click on the departure and arrival. Before you do this, it's a good idea to look at the current weather forecast for the airport that you're going to operate to see which is the active runway, and in this case it's 27, so you click departure and arrival 27. At some airports the departure runway is different from the arrival runway, but you have to put in the correct one. This governs the Atis and the correct departure list. So for the moment we're assuming it's runway 27 at Bristol. So the next thing we're going to do is to connect to our Vatsim account. You can find out how to log into your Vatsim account on Euroscope through the tutorials on Vatsim. As it shows your password and ID number, it's not a good idea to show that on a YouTube video. When you first connect to Vatsim each time, and you will no doubt do this as an observer when you're first starting, then this voice communications setup pop-up will appear, and you scroll down until you find EGGD and choose, for example, Bristol Ground, and click on Primary and Receive Voice, which is this one. Then close it. We then have UKCP notifications. I have one unread, which I know what that is, so I'm not going to look at that. We are operating on 121.920 as ground. As you can see, we have some controllers on the system, but nothing that is relative to Bristol. We would need London West or London or EGGD app or EGGD tower, TWR. We have no planes at the moment, and we have no departure list. So the next thing to do, just to see if anybody is there, is to go back down to the chat line. But before that, I'm going to connect the AFV. The AFV is a plugin for the voice system on Vatsim. And to look at your plugins, you go to Other Settings and go to Plugins. And this one has VSMR, which I won't go into at the moment. It has the UK controller plugin, which I suggest you do need. And you then need the voice. So I will load that. These plugins can be downloaded usually from the Vatsim system on the forum for most of them, and the one you need is the RDF plugin for Euroscope, which puts a circle around any aircraft that is transmitting, so that's very helpful for visual management. The audio for Vatsim, which you need to be able to talk to aircraft. So those are the ones we need, and then you have to make sure that they're connected. So you have to move whatever is in these boxes across to the left-hand side. So you click on it, click the center arrow, then go to the next one. That's already in there. The VCH, the audio for Vatsim, and the RDF plugin. So in theory, all those should now be on the left-hand side, which they are. So you can close that window. So you've got your plugins working. So you can now do a final check. If you go to the chat line at the bottom of the screen and type in stop VIS EGGD, that will bring up any aircraft that are on the plot. So at the moment we do not have any. So on the arrival list, we have no aircraft about to arrive in our sector. We have no aircraft on the airport which are ready to depart. That means for them to be on the departure list, they have to have filed a flight plan. The aircraft symbols will appear on the airport depending on what you put on this display. You can choose what data you want to display by clicking on Display and then Profiles and choosing one of the options. So that essentially is how you would set up Bristol on the Vatsim Euroscope system. When the 4 weekly changes are made to the sector file, then some of the airports will come up straight away, but others you will have to restart them like this every time, which can be a bit of a pain, but this is the way to do it. The next thing to do is to set up the Atis. So we have to go to this letter here and click on it, and this brings up the Atis dialog. So this is the main information. We have put the airport Bristol EGGD in here. We click on Get METAR, Test URL, automatically generate in there, and then connect. It has brought up the METAR information over here, which is information Bravo, the wind 150 at 6 knots, and the QNH, which is the altitude above sea level, barometric pressure 1018. What it hasn't done is connected properly. Clicking on connect will not work if you're an observer. So you'll disconnect it and try again. And there it is. If this comes up with a 60 or 61 in front of it, then it is not connected. It has to have the letters signifying the airport with I for information. So that is now connected. So for example, we now have an aircraft on the plot as an EasyJet, and that is the symbol and that is his data. And the other thing I need to do to talk to him is to connect my Vatsim radio system, which is on here, and so that would have said connect, so I would have clicked on that, and it then opens ground, which is the station I'm controlling. So that enables me to talk to the aircraft and for them to talk to me.
Bristol ground, good afternoon, Easy 82 Golf Uniform radio check.
Easy 82 Golf Uniform Bristol ground, very good afternoon, readability 5. So thank you for watching this video on RMVideoChannel, and I hope it was useful. If you have any comments or questions, please put them on the comments section on my channel. Thank you and goodbye.